Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games. You're on day 2 of week 1. I'm joined back by Sol for a very specific reason. The next match we've got coming up is going to be the UK, which is this way, sorry. Versus, I was trying to, cameras. The UK versus USA. It's going to be an absolutely amazing match. We have a lot of rivalry with our friends over the pond. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch this match play out. Regardless of which way it goes, it's going to be a lot of fun, especially because of the players that are involved.
And they've already got their money's worth out of me because I had to tell them to fix the Union flag, which they hung the wrong way around and would have triggered everyone watching from a certain generation that cares about that sort of thing for some reason. But the flags are not what matter. What matters is the 4 players that we have representing each team. And perhaps, if we're going to boil this all down, one player from each team in particular, and that is a certain young, savage amnesiac versus the cheekiest of lads, George C, representing the UK.
Yeah, if we get to see that matchup, that'll be definitely a great thing to see. We do see is Jambray, George C, Green Sheep, and Jackie Chan versus Amnesiac, Dog, Firebat, Hot Meat, Alth. So, we can see from the UK team, Jambray, a teammate of mine on Torpedo,
yes,
definitely likes to innovate new decks and fun decks, and specifically decks that are excellent in his mind, at least. So that's going to be a joy to see. George C has multiple HCT performances and is deemed a very, very strong player, recently joining Stan Sifka and Pokrovac to form Misfits.
And you saw there the footage of our wonderful country, all clearly from the south of the country due to the greenery and beautiful architecture, as opposed to shots of the north of the country, which is all dilapidated buildings and people with bad teeth.
Even when it's UK versus USA, we cannot unite on this. As you may have guessed, I'm from the north of the UK, so I am actually disappointed we couldn't unite on at least this one match.
Just give me one. Now that one's out of the way,
okay.
We're on the same team.
We're together. Okay,
right, let's go.
For once. Okay, and yeah, USA looking at...
Oh, baby, let's go.
George C versus Amnesiac. I feel like the teams should have just talked beforehand and said, we want to play each other. Let's just put them first and see what happens. We're going to see the the alternate versions of each other play on the first game. Then there's going to be Jambray versus Firebat, Green Sheep versus Dog, and then the 4th player, Jackie Chan versus Hot Meowth, with George C and Amnesiac as the ace players as well. They could start off a great lead for their country, and they could decide the final winner in this match. I am absolutely hyped for this. George C, Warlock, and Rogue versus Amnesiac's classes as well, which I didn't quite get to see.
Amnesiac has Shaman and Mage as his 2 options for the opening game.
Then.
But yeah, no mirrors potentially, but of course both players will pick one class. Each has 2 decks allocated to them, 2 classes allocated to them. They get to pick one to play for each matchup, and then potentially the other one if it gets as far as the ace game, which again, these 2 players are involved in. But breaking down the teams as a whole, of course, the US, another big powerhouse. Hot Meowth, weirdly, seems like he might be the lesser light on this team, even though he is the guy that's come on as the anchor from being the top point earner. But Firebat, Dog, Amnesiac, absolute titans of the scene. Jambray and Jackie Chan on our team, a little bit more of a meme deck innovator, but for different stances. Jackie Chan builds meme decks because he's just about having fun playing the game. Jambray just has weird ideas on what's good. He plays strange decks because he thinks that those are the best things to play.
And the thing is, he's the recent victor in the UK Premier League Championships as well. So, he makes and plays these sort of completely off-meta strange decks, but most importantly, he makes them work in competitive formats. He legitimately brings them to tournaments and performs with them. So we'll get to see what he's got cooked up for this one, but we're going to kick off with George C and Amnesiac. George C is commonly referred to as the Amnesiac of Europe.
I think you'll find Amnesiac is commonly known as the George C of North America. Thank you very much.
I feel a certain American bias as to who wrote these player profiles, but, Amnesiac is an absolutely fantastic player. Both of these guys have so much in common, which is why we compare them so often. They're both very young and they're pretty much Hearthstone prodigies at this point. They've got amazing results and they are only going to continue to improve, I think.
And they're also both absolute savages, which does help to play into the comparison. But honestly, I want to be as confident as possible here, but I think if you add up the quality of the 4 players on each team, the US probably have an edge.
Yes.
What gives the UK a real fighting chance in this matchup is because each game is collaborative. All 4 players have input on every game being played. It almost boils down to just the quality of your best player. They can really bring up the level of the other players you have. And George C, make no mistake about it, is one of the very best Hearthstone players in the world, more than capable of competing with the likes of Amnesiac and Firebat, all these players with fantastic tournament pedigree on Team USA.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what decks these players bring as well, because, you know, Dog straight away with Quest Rogue went straight to rank 1 legend. On ladder as well.
Although he himself admitted that he high-rolled the hell out of that run to rank
I was just about to say, that was in the very, very early days of the expansion, but Dog is definitely one, you know, a bit of an innovator himself, actually.
Absolutely.
He does like to play, you know, off-meta stuff and does play it competitively also, so it's going to be great to see what these 2 teams provide. And I just want to listen to comms for both these teams. It'll be so
He
funny.
didn't have the most robust practice schedule, though. I was watching him stream last night, and he was just playing basically a version of that druid that we just saw, the really heavy ramp druid. He just jammed ultra saws in there because he thought it was funny, and they were doing work. One of them survived a meteor, and it was one of the most glorious moments I've ever seen.
Brilliant. There's an update on the notes. I appreciate these. Amnesiac is also going referred to as the George C of America. Absolutely amazing. He's got a 98 on his Albridger test. He totally didn't even study. This is top-notch, in-depth information here. I feel someone in production has had fun with this one. Can't blame him at all. Good job, Doug, probably. So yeah, you know, these 2 players, we've talked a lot about them. Both, you know, however much we're joking around, exceptional players, and they're pretty much leaders within their own country in terms of Hearthstone.
And just look at that for George C. 106 HCT points throughout 2016. That is an incredible amount. And of course, the highest point earner this year will go directly through to the World Championship, which probably means he's going to be doing his level best to stack up a massive total of points again this year.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. 1 player from each region just goes straight there in terms of highest points. So it's definitely a lot to play for and a very long-term goal. And what's really good as well about George C and Amnesiac, again, so many similarities, is like, for example, I've met both of their fathers, because they've both been at events we've been to with them.
Yes.
And they're very supportive, actually, as well. So it's something, because obviously they're juggling school. Amnesiac plays tennis as well, or basketball.
Both, I believe.
Both? Yeah. It's just a wonder kid. So
he plays tennis and basketball and wins Hearthstone tournaments, and he can still get a 98 on his algebra test. Come on. What a guy.
Exactly. So, you know, having the parents support that as well at such a young age definitely helps them out. So I just want these guys to get going. I can't wait. There's going to be so much bragging rights on this single game. Never mind the match as a whole of the UK versus USA. This one game, I believe even, I think it was Eloise that posted footage of George C beating Amnesiac in an arm wrestle as well. So he's already at least 1-0 upon him with that.
I don't know where I would have put my money as a betting man on an arm wrestle between George C and Amnesiac,
like
but still.
Betting on an arm wrestle between twins, who do you even pick? It doesn't even matter at this point.
Although the arm wrestle that we saw between you and Lothar, that one's a bit easier to predict, right?
Yeah, me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to get into game 1. George C on the Rogue, Amnesiac on the Shaman. It looks like elements are going to be the power for Amnesiac and George C. This looks like the Miracle Rogue list.
It does indeed. No quest in the opening hand, and Mimic Pod seems to suggest that it's not a tempo rogue either. So
true gentleman's deck.
Yeah, Miracle Rogue, a true gentleman deck for absolute gentlemen, unlike these savages from across the pond in the US.
Yeah, with their volcanoes and their frogs.
Volcano, though. Wow, Volcano is a really interesting card, because there were elementals in his opening hand that he mulliganed away, right? So this is an elemental shaman.
We saw this from Team Sweden play this style as well. Elemental shaman with volcanoes as their sweepers, because it only overloads for 2, which is actually, it didn't really click until because I've not really played much Volcano yet. It didn't really click until I saw it come out. I was like, oh, it's actually not a lot of overload for a lot of board sweep.
It's not elemental destruction. Exactly. It's not that lockout. You don't need to pair it with those Lava Shock style cards that are now gone, although I believe Eternal Sentinel is still hanging around, but Lava Shock has bitten the dust at this point. But Amnesiac has hit that turn 1 Firefly, which is obviously a big deal. This is the engine card to elemental decks in the same way that Twilight Whelp was the engine for Dragon Priest.
Yep, triple coin in the opening hand here for George C.
Baby.
There is a Gadget Zan. He could even, imagine Van Cleef. Oh, that'd be pretty sick. It's just
Is that the noise that you make when you imagine Van Cleef?
every night.
Nice.
So you do see a Stone Sentinel now for the patches,
That's
which
fine.
is not the best card, since I doubt there are any elementals.
That's fine. He just has to pick up a hallucination or a second swashbuckler, nail the fire alley, and then we're good to go.
Okay, brilliant. No bias at all on this side of this. Double Firefly for Amnesiac contends this board very well, actually.
Does, and no great tempo options in hand for George C to be able to contest with that, but Amnesiac just going to go off and fire the
Literally.
the Maelstrom portal.
3-pointer there, drawing Maelstrom portal against 2 1/1s.
And the prep pickup means that this hand goes off absolute fireworks in a few turns. Triple coin in hand plus preparation alongside the Auctioneer can be huge, but he might just fall way too far behind on the board before then for even that power level of a turn to catch him up.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge, and Amnesiac really needs to start drawing into these slightly bigger elementals to get the chain going, because having the Fireflies down is great, but not if you've got nothing to follow up with, right? 1/2s are nice on turn 1, turn 2, and good for the easy battery procs later on, I would say, for the elementals, but definitely not enough to push a rogue out of a turn like you just discussed. The big Gadget Zan coin prep. Absolutely crazy. Definitely not prep coin though. Ooh, that's pretty good.
That is very important. Probably worth using a coin on at this point, just to be able to get it on the board, start fighting away, because he will be able to resurrect that thing after it dies a couple of times at least, just with this hand that he has at the moment. So getting it into play seems pretty strong for me. Again, housekeeping to get out of the way. I know some of you guys don't like base level things being explained to you, but if you are new to this metagame, Sherazin Corpse Flower, very unique card. You play it down, it's a 5/3, and unless it is silenced or transformed, every time it gets killed, it transformed into a dormant pod, which is then revived if you play 4 or more cards on any given turn after that.
Yeah, and the pod, while it's in that state, is completely uninteractable.
Correct.
Brawl does not affect it. Twisted Nether does not affect it. You cannot remove it off the board in any way, shape, or form.
Hex, however, if you do it beforehand, deals with it quite nicely.
Yeah. I would be amazed, especially with 2 in hand anyway. This is a reasonable Hex target in my eyes, at least. Sherazin, doesn't look too great. Oh, it's a 5/3. I just trade into it dead. And then, 4 cards to play in a turn. Pretty easy for Rogue, it turns out, especially the Miracle version. So I think this does need to be cleaned up by Amnesiac, because this can cause nightmares, especially when he starts trading up as well, not dying after 1 trade.
Mm-hmm. But still, like you said, not a great deal of power being pushed through for Amnesiac. Does have solid board control. There is that hallucination, though.
Hit the elemental.
This could actually be very important, because that Stone Sentinel could suddenly transform into a very powerful card. No such joy, though. None of these cards really appealing. Rogue, not a class that wants to deal with Overload at all. Of course, Overload is always a drawback, but when your class as a whole, and particularly this deck, is built all around mana efficiency and big tempo swing turns, dealing with an Overload turn is not something that you want to be looking at most of the time.
But if you're ever going to, next turn's probably it, because you have a rough next turn, but then the turn after you straight up Gadget Zan and then go off.
It's fair. It's fair. It would lock him out of the Vilespine Slayer turn unless he wanted to use both coins on it, which he absolutely does not. And just look at how efficient this Stormforged Axe is at chewing through this board right now.
And only 1 Overload as well.
Yeah.
So a little bit easier than Feral Spirit. And also Feral Spirit is vulnerable to Flame Tongue with this board as well. So this is just a reasonable play here. And 3 charges is going to be pretty nice. Even just chewing up totems, worst case scenario.
Yep, 3 charges on a 2/3 weapon lines up pretty well against 3 1/2s that are on the board. But that Hot Spring Guardian now is actually very, very nice to protect these 2 health minions from the Stormforged Axe that's in play. Can curve it out nicely with that totem. That Firefly being held in hand, so he can still get 2 solid elemental procs off it in the future. 1 off the Firefly itself and 1 off the Flame Elemental that comes out.
Yeah, now Amnesiac starting to just chip away a little bit here.
Oh, boy.
The Hot Spring is nice, as you said, a little bit difficult to deal with. Probably hold off on everything this turn. Do you think it's just a pass and then go absolutely nuts next turn?
I think now that you've drawn the backstab, you have more than enough Auctioneer food for next turn. I think just the tempo push here of coining the Vilespine is perfectly fine, because next turn you still have Auctioneer, Backstab, Coin, and a Prep, plus anything else that those 4 spells draw you from your deck.
Yeah, that's true. It's always a difficult decision in terms of Valspine timing, because, you know, this is nice tempo play, you kill off the Hot Spring as well, but there are some big elementals in the deck that you would love to just insta-remove off the board. So it's one of those ones, do I try and get so far ahead that that doesn't matter later on with the Valspine? Or do I hold up, and go for a big blowout Valspine turn? Looks like George sees value in the tempo, and with the turn that's about to follow, don't blame him.
Hot Spring Guardian number 2, although Jade Lightning very efficient now to take care of the 3-4. Again, weaves the totem in once more. He's been getting that totem down basically every single turn. We saw him passing early with the Firefly in his hand. So he went totem, then he went Firefly plus totem, etc. He's really been squeezing in that totem every single turn he could, continues to do so, but now George C's hand, which has been so incredibly slow this entire game, is about to explode.
Yeah, this is nuts. And we can see now we have the information that it is the Arcane Giant version.
Yes.
And this volume of spells is definitely going to help out with that list, because it means he's getting the double value, the draws from the Gadget Zan and the reduction from the Arcane Giant.
And the great news for George C right now, well, I mean, let's not call it great news. Of course, he would love his Auctioneer to just survive. But since he's taking damage off the board here, there's a very good chance that this Auctioneer is just going to eat the second Hex at this point. Yep. And then with Arcane Giants in hand already, he can potentially just win the game right off the bat of those 2 potential 8/8 minions if he draws them both.
Yeah, I wonder where this Abyss is going to go. Looks like he's aiming at the Flame Elemental. There's even a thought about going on the spell damage totem as well, just in case there's any Lightning Storms, for example. But we'll see how this turns out. Second Arcane Giant, not at all.
That turn was nowhere near as spectacular as it could have been. Another hallucination could have been picked up to fill in that 1 mana that he floated. There was also a second prep still in the deck, I believe. So a little bit short of maybe what George C would have hoped for this turn. But Amnesiac does have to slow his roll, hex that Gadgetzan, slows down his development a little bit more again. And now the deck is out of hexes, but there is that Volcano that could be the answer to the Giants.
Yeah, which is very interesting, though, because Volcano hits all of your board.
Yes.
And the fact that Amnesiac keeps going wide with totems means that the totems could actually soak up a good amount of damage, but Volcano also does a good amount of damage itself. So here comes the Arcane Giant. It looks like Blaze Caller on... no, sorry, not on curve, but on demand with the Firefly being procced this turn for the Elemental buff. Means that this could be a... oh, he's traded, though. This could be a bit tough.
Yeah, he's short of the damage for Blaze Caller to be relevant. There is a good chance, or this 8/8 will be free reign for George C to attack on the following turn, but Amnesiac will still be able to build a very, very nice board state here, and he's still at 30. George C has not had early tempo, which Rogue can still sometimes get. Then they lose tempo around the mid-game turns, bring it back with a big explosive Auctioneer turn. Then suddenly 1 or 2 Arcane Giant shots in that situation can be game-ending. Right now, Amnesiac's still just chilling at 30, so that Giant is not an imminent game-ending threat right now. I think Amnesiac's perfectly free to just develop a board state if he wants to.
Yeah, he does have the option as well to Volcano and then go into Hot Spring to continue to proc his Elemental Chain. But, you know, like you said, he's so safe at the moment that you can actually just play the Tolvair Stone Shaper and the Hot Spring and then just call it a day and just be like, okay, you know, push for 1. The Manatide Totem draws you additional card.
Yep.
Everything seems kind of nice at that point. You still have the Blaze Caller for some big burst damage a little bit later, either on a minion or just to face.
Amnesiac just pushing Fire Ellie being picked up now, so George C has to get a strong grip on this board sooner rather than later, otherwise he's going to find himself in serious issues. Mimic Pod can be used now to proc the Vilespine Slayer, which beforehand would have meant wasting a combo effect like the SI. He's looking like he might just be valuing the extra 3/3 on the board right now anyway. You can see very clearly the decision that George C is trying to make here. The Vilespine looks like it's going to get played. It's just a matter of whether he's activating it with Mimic Pod or with SI7.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one as well because he has to know that, you know, Blaze Caller's a potential option as well. And, you know, the Tolvair with the Divine Shield plus the Blaze Caller cleans up the Arcane Giant very, very cleanly.
Yes.
So there's even a chance that the Arcane Giant goes into the 2/4 along with the dagger onto the Tolvir to try and get that extra sort of awkward trade value.
Oh, that's huge. There is usually only one copy of Sap in this deck because of the extra removal that you get from the Vile Spine Slayers. And now with the huge elementals starting to hit the board, potentially he would have used his Vile Spine Slayer on this turn, but now that Sap draw means that he can go with Edwin or an Arcane Giant this turn for an even bigger board swing. That is massive for George C.
Yeah, and the fact that he can sap Vile Spine next turn if he wants to destroy 2 more minions. So we can see 2 Tolvir Stone Shapers are an option. They could just be sap Vile Spine, punch again, which is absolutely crazy. The Blaze Caller plus the Firefly that's on board is a clean kill on the Arcane Giant. So I imagine that's very difficult to turn down. But the problem is, like, you know, you just left a Giant on the board, kind of just on its own to do whatever it wants with. So we're going to see what's going to happen here. Blaze Caller being an elemental itself is nice as it continues the chain for Amnesiac. So these Tolvir Stone Shapers are still going to be live next turn.
Yeah, and I will correct a point I made in a previous series. Of course, using the original copy of a Mimic Potted card does not show the text that it was created. Someone corrected me on Twitter. Thank you very much for that. But the point that I was getting at and why I thought that is that as soon as one is played, it's the easiest hand read in the world, right? That you know a second Sap is there. So that's why I think we see Amnesiac using the Blaze Caller here. He wanted to develop the threat that was the worst target to Sap, whereas, of course, playing Stone Shapers would have just given value to that second Sap that he knows is there.
Yep, options are Finders Keepers, Hammer of Twilight, Master of Evolution. I actually wouldn't even mind that hammer here.
Master of Evo is a full heal to that Giant. He could trade into the 6/6 and then Evo his Giant and then heal it back up to 8/8 because of the unique way that Evolution works when there isn't an available target to evolve into.
Huh.
Just goes Finders Keepers, though. I think he might just be looking for burn in this position to end the game. Maybe a Lightning Storm of his own just to be able to answer this board state. But if he's looking for damage, then Hammer of Twilight just seemed like a great pickup in terms to push. So I'm wondering what he's looking for now with this Finders Keepers.
It only discovers an Overload card that is from Shaman as well. This is one of the, I think, only discoveries that works for other classes, not your own.
Hydrologist as well, you get Paladin Secrets in other classes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, up until a few days ago, this was the only Discover card that worked with the other class.
You asked.
Right? Oh, you're right. Good to know. But yeah, you know, this is a will discover Shaman spell. And yeah, there's no like for example, a Hex, right? Like Hex won't overload, so it's not going to be one of the options. So yeah, just like Burn is a choice here. Maybe you just want Spell Burns to get past potential taunts.
It's fair. It's a fair consideration, yeah, but he's running out of large minions. This Van Cleef might be his last push, and that's probably the big consideration here, is that he played Hallucination. He didn't think any of the cards that he was offered were potentially game-winning, so he just took the 1-mana option so that he can weave it into a huge Van Cleef in the future.
There's no elementals that overload, is there? So if you got an elemental to then prot the Stone Shaper, not the Stone Shaper, the
Stone Sentinel.
Yeah, Stone Sentinel, sorry.
I don't believe so. There's Unbound Elemental, which reacts to Overload, but I don't think there's a card with Overload.
Such a roundabout way to be able to make that card work.
Yeah.
This explains the excessive hero power in from Amnesia.
Oh, the backstab. That backstab is making that Van Cleef even bigger if that is the plan this turn. And now Doomhammer available as well, but he's just going to go off.
He's going to keep chaining them.
Infinite value while buffing your Van Cleef.
Double Volcano.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Does it find the Keepers again? No. Oh, Volcano might be okay.
Volcano of his own. Forked Lightning is another 1-mana card that he can dump out this turn. That is what's going to happen. This is all in on Van Cleef. I called this on the previous turn. It does seem to be the line that George C is committing to here. But with spell damage in play and double Volcano in hand, Amnesiac has 32 points of board clear in hand right now.
Yeah, I think that spell damage totem is going to have to go. I mean, maybe even not. Maybe you literally that all in. You're like, right, this either wins me the game or it doesn't. We're going to see Hallucination calling the finishers, a Mana Tide, and a Doomhammer. You got the Doomhammer in the end anyway.
Leading with the Forked Lightning, doesn't answer the spell damage totem, so now is the backstab going to hit that spell damage totem is the big question. No, he's going to backstab the 3/5 to force the 8 damage through to face. The Van Cleef is going to come down as a 14/14, which means only 24 3 points of health on the board, even including the Shaman side. That's 28. Amnesiac has this covered quite nicely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, double Volcano, though, will reduce down his elemental potential and overloading, but he can sneak in a Fire Elemental the following turn very cleanly as well. So this could be the opening here. Amnesiac just fully clears the board with double Volcano. Next turn goes for Fire Elemental, because he must know that George C's kind of all in.
This was all in. Yeah,
you don't double pick Finders Keepers and not go all in with this.
Right. The only thing he will be potentially scared of now is that there is still 2 random effect cards in hand in total. One that he ended up with that turn from the final hallucination, and the original card from the Swashbuckler, which has still not been played. So if those 2 cards add up to a ton of face damage, that could still be game-ending for George C. But remember, George C heavily overloaded himself making this play as well because of all those Finders Keepers that he ended up playing.
Yeah, exactly. And the Doomhammer could just be a nice equip here, to be honest. It's 4 damage.
You just got to get him.
Yeah, puts Amnesiac to 10.
Yeah.
Does have SI Agent with, at worst, prep for an extra 2 damage the following turn. And this, I think, still eviscerates, all right? Have we even seen eviscerates?
I don't think. We definitely haven't seen 2. We might have seen 1 that I've forgotten about, but now Thing from Below being paired with just a 4/5 body on the board, probably just going to be good enough at this point, because he needs to end this game quickly at this point. So, forget the value of this Servant. Just get it on board to hit George C in the face next turn. Protect yourself with the Thing from Below. George C needs to pick up a way through this 5/5 taunt this turn. That is not going to do a great job, although it does help a little.
It means that he can actually just use this, the SI, and 1 swing of the Doomhammer to kill the Thing from Below off. So this is looking very, very close indeed.
This guy's toast.
Now there's 5 power on the board for George C, +4 from the Doomhammer. So Amnesiac only has 6 available to him at this moment, but can proc the Divine Shield taunt of the Tolvir Stone Shaper to put up another wall. And I feel like this Stone Sentinel has just been a nightmare for George C all game.
Yeah,
it's completely unplayable.
It's been a horrible draw. I memed about picking up a second Elemental, but obviously it's just been a dead card. Not only is it an Elemental proc card, it's also, I think, maybe just the worst card in terms of stat value for mana cost
7 mana
when you don't activate it. Servant of Kalamos, 5 mana Yeti.
The opposite of
All right,
Faceless.
Yeah, exactly. 7 mana 4/4, nice meme.jpg. But now he's going to need to be playing a second copy of Sap in his deck, and he is. That, from his perspective, is going to give him hope of potentially winning this game. Sets him up for an Eviscerate top deck for lethal on the following turn. But Amnesiac is going to have none of this. He has the J-Claws in hand to finish the game. And the long-awaited matchup is going to go down in the way of Amnesiac of the USA, and we are both miserable right now.
Yeah, even I'm struggling to stay positive at this point.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that's quite the feat indeed. But fair enough, Amnesiac does take the game. Very cool game though, very close. George C going for the all-in and it not quite working out for him, but nice solid play from Amnesiac as well. That the Elemental Shaman deck, as long as you don't completely whiff and unable to proc the chain, then the deck seems very, very strong.
I really liked how patient he was with his Fireflies as well. I think we've seen a lot of people, and myself included, we think playing the Firefly on turn 1 is free because you get the card back anyway. But of course, when you really think about it, that Firefly is 2 procs that you can choose to ration out throughout the game. You don't have to play it on turn 1 if it's not going to get you a strong advantage. And I love how patient Amnesiac was. You saw how well rationed his elemental effects were throughout that game. And that's the difference between him playing that deck successfully and some of the people we've seen playing it less successfully, is they just weren't quite able to get those elemental procs to line up quite as well.
Yeah, also as well, it's the spamming of hero powers early on with Things from Below. Not something you always see in the Elemental Shaman deck. So definitely nice to see something a little bit different again. And Jambray is going to be next versus Firebat. Jambray going with Shaman over Paladin, which again, just in case you don't know, Jambray pretty much invented a deck called Egg Paladin, hence all the egg puns in his HGG quotes and nomination stuff. But he's chosen not to play it, even though there's a new egg in the game.
There is a new egg, yeah, but some of the other eggs have disappeared, which means we've kind of net broke even on eggs in total. But yeah, I'm not sure if that even is the style of Paladin that he would have ended up going for. Of course, he is famous for it, but he is also a very, very strong competitive player. I talked a little bit before about the difference between Jambray and Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan, God bless him, is just all about having fun. He's primarily a streamer, an incredibly entertaining one, but he's a great deck builder, but he's great at just coming up with weird ideas and making them work. He doesn't generally build competitive stuff. Jambray plays weird decks, but he plays weird decks because he thinks they're the strongest option. He thinks they're actually better. He thought Egg Paladin was just the absolute nuts in a couple of metas and just kept on playing it despite no one else picking it up. And there he is, the handsome individual, the current ESL UK Premiership champion, going up against a man with a much longer list of accolades than that, Firebat from the United States. Previous world champion, one of only 2 men to, I believe, win the same major event twice, alongside
back as well.
RDU winning 2 DreamHacks now. So his prize money stacks up against just about anyone over the history of Hearthstone, but you can learn a little bit more, and surprise, surprise, once again, Jambray's facts are full of egg puns. They were good enough to get him voted in over Boar Control, so they're good enough to be shown on air.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Jambray, and just to also Firebat said his greatest achievement in Hearthstone is winning Frodan's Player of the Year award in 2015, so that's definitely an accolade no one else has, which is absolutely fantastic.
Jambray loves to exercise in London by riding Boris bikes, which are rentable bikes named after the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson. Technically accurate, but TJ, I hate you so much right now.
We aim to educate here at Hearthstone Global Games. We give you, nice little information, little nuggets about the countries, about the players and stuff, and that's just one of many we'll kick out over the next few weeks as we bring you some good old card slinging action, as I feel I'm going to coin as my phrase now. But yeah, this is going to be huge.
I mean, you do kind of need a new catch. People are sick of Shaman by now. You might as well start saying it properly and just switch.
No one's ever sick of Shaman. But yeah, this is a kind of a David and Goliath sort of story in terms that both players are obviously very good, but Firebat, multiple-time major winner, world champion at one point, and Jambray is definitely still on the proving ground. I would say he's very dominant in the UK scene and in the UK-based tournaments, but not had a huge performance outside of us.
And it's kind of the story of the UK in competition in general. In global competition, we're actually just kind of a minnow. Our population is very, very small compared to some of these huge countries, but yet Olympic Games, World Cups, all these kind of things. Actually, although we as a country tend to constantly be disappointed with how we perform, the UK actually overperforms on a per capita basis compared to the rest of the world by a huge margin. And now it's trying to bridge the gap in population between the UK and the United States, and the bridge between experience and pedigree between Jambray and Firebat. But this is the point I made earlier. Players in the background helping out over comms like George C, who have a similar now competitive pedigree to what Firebat has, can help to bridge that gap.
Yeah, and it's going to be Jambray on the Elemental Chain with the Jade Sprinkling by looks of things, but it looks like Firebat on the Pirate Warrior as well. I think we might have an admin query at some point, but we'll see how this works out. So guys, just got to take the time over the mulligan. Firebat maybe misclicked. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we are just seeing some messages being passed back and forwards to the admins, and I do not think this game is going to be legitimate. I think we are going to see 1 or 2 of these players explode very, very soon, as there is appears to be a bit of an admin issue.
Yep, we'll see, but until then, we'll cast the game anyway. More Hearthstone is more Hearthstone. Deckhand on 1, anyone?
Do you deckhand, or do you upgrade, or do you in fact just do something at random because it doesn't matter?
I'm going to make the... Oh, okay, I thought Firebat was just going to rope. But we'll see what's happening. Okay, so he's going to go for the upgrade. We may have been slightly too what's the word I'm looking
hasty.
For? Too hasty, there we go. Too hasty in our presumption here. Looks like the game might be being played out. So we'll keep you informed, but for now, if the game's being played, we will cast it.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Jade Claws is going to answer the upgrade. The 1-1 Jade being cleaned up very nicely by the upgraded weapon. Going into a 3-drop seems pretty reasonable here for Firebat. The Frothing Berserker going to be the choice. One, it's a threat in itself, and also has just more health than the Captain.
Yeah, Firebat just choosing to attack, buffing up the frothing here, which Jambray unable to answer. Even if he wasn't overloaded, wouldn't have the mana available for the Jade Lightning, and Jambray already finding himself significantly behind on this board position.
Okay, looks like it is going to be a rematch. So people just like to keep us on toes. Yeah, I think I think they just slightly locked in the incorrect list, and
Yes.
it wasn't like from Pirate Warrior to something else. Yeah, I think there was one card in
Right.
Mulligan that was incorrect.
Yeah.
But both players now have an idea what their opponent's lists are. They're both going to lock in the same classes, no doubt, as well. There is not going to be, complete deck list change or anything like that. It was just a slight error there, and of course, it was on the USA side.
Wow! What are you trying to say, Raven?
What do you think?
I don't know. I want you to clarify.
Nope.
Okay.
Anyway, so these guys are just going to get ready. Looks like they're actually still playing.
They're just having a fun, enjoyable game of Pirate Warrior Hearthstone right now.
Someone tell them to concede.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a small issue, nothing too crazy. They'll just rematch. But yeah, how do you think the Pirate Warrior versus the Elemental Shaman is going to stack up?
It's hard to say. I know Ball Control specifically was climbing to Legend. Ball Control, for those of you who don't know, was the player that I think we both feel we would have liked to be our #1 player to join George C on the team. Just in terms of ability, I think him and George C are by far the two strongest players in the country. Unfortunately, of course, it was a popular vote, so Jambray just being a lovable guy that likes egg decks, and of course Jackie Chan's huge following on Twitch and YouTube, etc., that got them in ahead of Ball Control. But Ball Control played an Elemental Shaman list to Legend, I believe, where he started off farming Pirate Warriors, he said, around rank 5, and then later on switched in some Black Knight tech to be able to deal with Taunt Warriors as he got up towards rank 1 and closer to Legend. So he, being Jambray's teammate with you on Torpedo, obviously feels that matchup is very comfortable for him against Pirate Warrior, and probably will have given Jambray a lot of tips as to how to play that matchup in particular.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if actually Jambray is just playing Ball Control's list.
You're right.
To a large extent, as he did perform very well with it. So as the guys are just sorting it out, making sure everything is square, deck lists are correct, then they'll be going into the regame very, very shortly. In terms of all the elemental lists, how important after, we've discussed it over the past day or so and discussed it even before that, how important do you think the Phoenix tech, I say tech, the Phoenix choice is in the list? It's not necessarily tech, it's just the card in a vacuum isn't amazing, but the job it does in Elemental Shaman is kind of great.
It's fantastic because, for me, Servant of Kalamos is the strongest card in the deck. It's stronger than Blazecaller, stronger than Kalamos itself even, because of the effect that it has to allow you to react to the situation and pick a particular card that lets you curve out with elementals from turn 5 onwards and just blow out the game. So if you already have Blazecaller in your hand and you play Servant of Kalamos, then you pick up Fire Elemental so that you can then proc the Servant. Of course, using Discover on a relatively small pool of elementals, it allows you to do that quite consistently. The problem with doing that is if you play Tolvir Stoneshaper on turn 4, your elemental chain is broken, because although it's a fantastically powerful card as a 3/5 Divine Shield, it's not an elemental itself. So Fireplume Phoenix, a little bit weaker on the immediate, just being a weaker play on turn 4 than Tolvir most of the time, but the things it does for the rest of your curve moving forward, I personally think that it's mandatory in the deck, and it seems so far that most of the people we've seen playing Elemental Shaman in Hearthstone Global games have agreed, at least the ones who have been successful, right?
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see the different ways of even a deck that initially looked quite linear in just like, well, you're just dropping the elementals on curve and play. We've seen many different builds, Volcano as well, being used to actually win that game pretty much from Amnesia.
Oh yeah, there's no pretty much about it. That game, that is score 1 to Volcano right there.
Just like the Evolve is like 17-1 or something now.
Well, first off, devolve, but secondly,
Evolve's also a good card.
You can't make up the rules to the extent where you just change the card that we're betting on.
My game, I can make up the rules to anything.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, we're just going to check. I think we're going to get an update on exactly what the, what's holding back the players. I guess they're just making sure everything's correct. Firebat's probably just
well, I imagine he's
messing around, making sure the list is right.
He's gone into Deck Builder. He's fixed the mistake that he knows, but now he's just 100% double checking that list is what he wants to be playing.
Did you notice he's wearing his lucky pants?
He wasn't he? I forgot about that, yeah.
Bit more of in-depth information about these players.
Sorry, lucky trousers, Raven. Jeez. Of all times, the UK is playing the USA right now, and you call them pants?
And you say shaman.
What is wrong with you? Get out now. Leave immediately. I've got this.
Not without me, you've known.
All right.
Okay, but yeah, Firebat actually has a specific pair of trousers that you might have seen him at multiple tournaments in, and very like top-end tournaments as well. You know, not just like the smaller ones or like tournaments from his house, for example. It's like no, he goes to major tournaments and wears these pants when he plays. He is deemed lucky, and well, I think he had the moment as becoming the world champion, so you can't really argue with that. It looks like we are finally back in the game. Sorry about that slight delay, but Firebat will be Firebat.
I think we handled that expertly, Raven.
Oof, it's too much for me to handle. But though, that's kind of interesting. Sorry, that's just caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, has he swapped the card out and picked the wrong card again? Worgen Infiltrator in Pirate.
You know in Crypt's Challenge Stone events where if you don't meet the rules, then they have that list of punishment cards that fill in. That's what. No, seriously, I've seen Worgen Infiltrator be played in Pirate Warrior before, especially now when the deck is down 1/1 drop because of Finley going out from the game. Quite often, some other people have just made the deck a little bit bigger, put in a bit of extra late game to replace Finley. But I know Worgen Infiltrator has been a card that's been filling that spot as well.
Yep, and again, Firebat's off to a really quick start, and with the South Sea Captain next turn, this could, that's the one card that I think from some data reports recently that has an extremely high win rate in Pirate Warrior when it's played.
Yes.
The second no one ever keeps it in their opening hand apparently, based off the statistics. But when it's played, it has such an extremely high win rate, and you can see why. Suddenly, 2 of these minions don't die to Maelstrom, and they become more and more difficult to deal with and pile on so much extra damage. So already, this could snowball out of control here.
Yep. Also, one of the highest win rate cards to use the coin on, interestingly enough.
Oh, really?
To coin South Sea Captain, yeah. You don't know what the lowest is?
Prep.
Netherspite Historian.
You think?
No, yeah, I've seen the
actually,
data has been published.
I thought you said you wonder what the lowest is. I was like, Wisp.
No, I said you want to know.
Oh.
Yeah. But still, South Sea Captain, incredibly powerful in this spot. Hex did come out, which is going to allow Jambray to now curve out twice with these Hot Spring Guardians. If he picks up a Stone Shaper in the meantime, then that is a big deal. But now Tar Creeper as well allows him to taunt on 3 consecutive turns now. Plays the Tar Creeper just to make sure that there's no value trade available for the Captain that there would have been into the Hot Spring Guardian.
Yeah, this is looking rough for Jambray, but that's a lot of taunts and a lot of heals, and with the Hot Spring on on turn 4, means you can get the Servant of Kalimos off on turn 5 if required, but it might just be Hot Spring, Fire Elemental at this point.
Interesting, Firebat choosing to trade like this, losing his small sources of damage from the board, which means if a Tolvir Stone Shaper were to come down here for 3/5 Divine Shield, he wouldn't have a nice, small source of damage to be able to break the Divine Shield off.
Yeah, it does have to commit either a weapon swing or one of the quite high value minions. Like we said, South Sea Captain, even without pirates on the board at this second in time, is still highly valuable. Already though, Jambray on 10.
Look at the nod on Firebat's face, just sat there like, yeah, Pirate Warrior, buddy.
He's just getting him, and there's not a lot of options here. Second Hot Spring, and the Maelstrom Portal, yeah, it kills the frog. Who cares at this point? The Hot Spring is going to be dealt with quite easily.
Let me see. If Maelstrom's now and Hot Springs, he's kind of demanding that the Reaper take out the Hot Spring because he removes the value trades from the Pirates at the same time by playing the Maelstrom Portal. That gives him then the freedom to potentially fire Ellie on the next turn if he needs to. Do
you think he's waiting for Spell Damage Totem Thanos into Maelstrom?
How much time do you think you have to wait right now, Raven?
Well, no, I'm not saying I think so. I'm saying does he think so? Because that is one thing he can squeeze in next turn. He's out of taunts, so you can't do anything else, right? The board's only going to get bigger. But here we go. The Hot Spring is going to be traded into quite easily by the Smokron. 9-4.
Look at this board. That's absurd.
Well, should we just not cast the last game and just run away, just in case?
That does seem like a viable option right now, yeah.
If the mics suddenly go quiet, guys, on the game 3, you know why?
So both Hot Spring Guardians have been used. I don't believe Ball Control's list played Jinyu Water Speaker. If Firebat and Team USA had been scouting, maybe seen that list come out from Ball Control. So setting him down to 4 there with the Mortal Strike in hand was incredibly likely, even if the board was to be cleared. Yeah, Firebat. Firebat knows how good he is, and he's not afraid to show it.
Yeah, he is a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, and definitely showing the emotion there of just being like, done, got him 2-0. Such a great position to be in for any team in this tournament, of course, as now they need one more win, and their opponents have to win every single game that's going to be coming up. So I believe it is going to be Green Sheep.
Green Sheep versus
next.
Dog, yes.
Yeah,
Green Sheep with Hunter and Warrior available, and Dog with his 2 pet classes. The Dog has pet classes of his own, Druid and Rogue to choose from, and he's nominated Druid here. And like I said, Dog has been favoring that heavy ramp druid that we saw previously in the previous series, the deck that you credited quite rightly to Frozen, who posted it on Twitter. But he has been playing some real memey cards in there as well.
Brilliant.
Bright-Eyed Scout, Ultrasaur, all kinds of madness going on in Dog's lists.
Hey, I got a message off, I think it's Admirable earlier. I've not had a chance to check it properly, but I'm pretty sure it said the Bright-Eyed Scout is a good card. So we'll see. And in our review as well, I was like, I think there's potential for that card in a high enough curve deck.
That's how you respond to every card. If you show Raven any given Hearthstone card, but yeah, I can think of a situation where that might be okay. That's his review of every card ever.
It's not true.
It just is.
Not true.
Check
Anyway.
the VODs.
So Dog versus Green Sheep. Green Sheep coming off the back of a very strong HCT performance in the very recent Winter Championships, qualifying for them. No doubt that's TJ's got that covered. But Green Sheep's ideal Saturday night to relax in front of the computer playing Hearthstone, enjoying some fish and chips. He's just putting in typical British things.
How's your David Attenborough voice, though? Because this middle one should clearly be read in David Attenborough voice.
Yours is probably going to be better.
The sheep, known for its aggressive playstyle, will often charge at predators instead of fleeing.
Brilliant. That wasn't too bad. But dogs have also been domesticated for an estimated 32,000 years, which, okay, the domestic dog is a member of the genus. I can't even...
All right, we're done. The
UK
UK 0-2 down. There's endless memes on my screen. I'm out. You can watch this game in complete silence.
You've beat us down into submission, I guess. But in all seriousness, this game is going to be pretty good. Green Sheep, again, feeling pretty confident. Like I said, he's enjoying his time on his new team as well. It's something he mentioned during his interviews at HCT.
Quite right.
And whoa, sporting a new haircut. Green Sheep looks sick now. No, his hair was getting a bit crazy.
That was such genuine excitement there for a second. Like, wow, Green Sheep looks sick.
I was excited over your hairstyle change. I'm excited over Green Sheep's hairstyle change. I'm just excited, okay?
All right, let's laser in back on serious mode for a second, because Green Sheep is probably a player that we haven't given enough credit to. Not just today, but historically as well. You know, people have said, oh, Green Sheep fell off. He had like a bad year in 2016. Yeah. You hear that a lot. He just didn't. He missed the last call on a tiebreaker. He was joint 8th with Stanu Daci in those points. Finished 2nd in multiple major tournaments as well that year. Missed qualifiers, missed Swiss cuts by 1 game all the way through. Green Sheep's overall win rate through 2016 was actually fantastic.
Yeah, he had a bad year, as in an unlucky year of just not quite making it. You know what I mean? That's the way his year wasn't great in terms of just missing out time and time again. But this year, he's already put his stamp on it. He's continuing to show that out. It's going to be Green Sheep on the Hunter with the Hydras. And it looks like Dog is just living the smoke life.
All right, Dog has officially just disappointed.
Just sold out.
20,000 Dog viewers, because firstly, there is no Ultrasaur in his deck, and secondly, he is clearly wearing a shirt right now. Come on, you're going to steal my thunder like that. Come on, jeez.
I thought it was a risk. I thought you were going to make some sort of official Hearthstone comment.
No.
And then you're like, yeah, he's wearing a shirt. No. A cool jersey, though. Team Liquid shirt. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you know, we saw a lot of aggro druid / token. I guess it's just aggro druid. You know, coming out from a lot of these players in the past couple of days. We saw the power of living mana as well early on. You just play it, fill your board with minions. If they don't trade them, you have minions on the board. If they do trade them, great. You just carry on your turn next turn. It's absolutely incredible.
If they don't trade them, then you... Oh, yeah, sure, you have 1 mana next turn. Do you know what's a good card you can play for 1 mana when you have 5 2/2s on the board? Mark of the Lotus.
I thought you were going to say the Scales card, but...
No! How does that even make sense?
Doesn't, that's the point.
Meanwhile, Alley Cat into Scavenging Hyena, one of the most powerful things that Hunter can do. People flirted with this idea in the previous expansion where, Hunter ended up being pretty much unplayable when it all smoothed out. But one of the early ideas was putting Hyenas into the deck because of Alley Cat coming out. And now, with the extra support that they've got from Jeweled Macaw, they just hit a 1-drop so consistently now that Scavenging Hyena is actually proving very successful for a lot of people.
Also, as well, it's the double benefit of playing Razor Maws as well, because suddenly, well, the Alley Cat actually just gets buffed as well by Razor Maw. It's just great to have a consistent 1-drop. So we'll see what goes on here for Dog. The Firefly is going to be great if he wants to coin out the Flame. We can actually just coin out the Corsair if he really wanted and get some huge value potential trades onto the board here.
Yeah, I imagine the Corsair is getting played this turn because Scavenging Hyena is just a terrifying prospect in this spot. It's not. Wow.
It feels a little bit greedy to want weapon value against Hunter.
So I see the thinking. It's not weapon value, it's he wants to charge the patches on the same turn as he plays Mark of the Lotus to get immediate value. But that in itself is also very greedy because you can potentially just end up losing the game right now to this exact play.
Yep, and this is going to be very difficult to deal with. This version of Druid doesn't often run very good removal and can't even Savage Roll this turn either.
No, he has to Bloodsail, Mark of the Lotus, and trade both of the tokens that can attack into the Scavenging Hyena to take care of it, which now gives Green Sheep a lot of initiative on the board.
Yeah, easy Eagle Horn Bow turn for him. Clear off this minion as one of the tricks you want to do against this type of Druid is to just not give them any minions on board to buff. That's normally a reasonable idea. And also sort of locks in, as you said, that tempo push next turn because you have the bow plus minion development.
Yep, just going to go boat, play this around, make sure there's no more big buffs coming out from Dog this turn, make him develop from scratch, and now he has Animal Companion to push next turn. Ravasaur Runt being drawn, not a particularly strong card, but it pairs very, very nicely with Egg Napper. This is one of the reasons you see Egg Napper in this deck, is that even if it's the only minion in play, you can see it just get traded out immediately, and then you just drop Ravasaur Runt behind it, and you have those two 1/1 plants being dropped behind.
Yeah, how do you like this turn for the double 2-drops? You're not guaranteed value from the Hyena because the Egg Napper probably just trades in.
In your world, are you hitting the 3/1?
Probably not.
Okay, interesting.
Because both minions trade with the 3/1. And then next turn, you have the Animal Companion plus probably Kindly Grandmother to trade into one of the 1/1s at least. And then you can start to snowball from there as you have Houndmaster going forward after that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It looks superior to Animal Companion at least. If there's any other buff in hand, then even your best case scenario, Animal Companion ends up being pretty weak. So double 2-drop seems like the line to me. I think hitting it or not is a slightly bigger question mark for me. I do err on your side, but there's an annoying little feeling in the back of my brain that you're supposed to hit this 3/1 this turn.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think it's clear cut, definitely, but I just feel that this minion will trade into the Hyena.
Yes.
It's almost guaranteed, and then the Grandmother just trades so nicely into one of the 1/1s anyway. The follow-up with Houndmaster, worst case scenario next turn.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, the more we look at it, I think you're right. I was, potentially it's essentially a 1/1 that you kill with the bow when it all boils down, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually not that much value in the long run.
Okay, so the trade is going to happen. Hyena, definitely not something you can leave up to Fender Vargas. To make one of the minions not die into this trade now, so it looks a little bit worse. But Houndmaster, Firebat's a nice pickup here.
That is a huge pickup, but Green Sheep needs to be pushing big right now because Dog has that Finger hitting the board next turn. He has a Savage Roar to follow up with the turn that Finger pulls Murloc. So even if he pulls the usually weak 2 Bluegill Warriors off his Finger, that Savage Roar is going to make it represent a lot of power.
Yeah, and even the ability to play the Finger into the Ravasaur Run is, like you said as well, so to get the buffs that turn means that you can almost guarantee that to happen. And Hunter, there's been a lot of variations of Hunter decks, and a lot of them have been including Deadly Shot to try and counter the Warriors as well. And Deadly Shot can be the one card that hard counters Finger, but now, Living Mana or Finger? It's got to be Finger, right?
It's Finger, yeah. I mean, basically, the way to look at this is that one of these options allows you to follow up with the other one if you want.
Yeah.
The other way around just doesn't work. They're both insanely powerful and both potentially game-winning, but living mana in itself also has a lot of counterplay against Hunter in the form of Unleash the Hounds, which can be devastating against you because quite often, sure, the Hounds don't clear the 2/2s, but they do just get to go face, and you don't have the mana to respond to them.
Yeah, and this is a really nice pickup for Green Sheep. I don't know, maybe Hero Powers this turn, just to squeeze it in, but he could have pushed like effectively 12 damage with the bow if he wanted to go for it. So this is 11, so only 1 off for not equipping the bow, getting more value out of the Hero Power. But Green Sheep's just turning on the heat now, and in this position, without some big minions like High Mane or Hydra, he has to. I think he almost now has to ignore everything that goes on the board.
Savage Roar preemptively here from Dog, so he's not going to get the raw value off any of the summoned Murlocs, but this will allow him to get Ravasaur Runt value this turn. The pull is War Leader Bluegill, so the Houndmaster is probably going to bite the dust here as well, and importantly, that Finn just sticks around as a 6/1 because of the post-summon buff from the War Leader, and that was exactly the swing turn that Dog was looking for. And is this the end of our heroes, Raven? It looks like it might just be ending all so soon. 0-3 for the USA is looking like a likely scenario from here.
It's going to be rough. There is still opportunities for cards like Unleash the Hounds, for example, to get some huge value. You know, I'm talking scenarios like Unleash, Kill Command, you know, to just end the game very quickly. One Savage Roar has been used, but with the second Argus, when it looks like this board isn't going anywhere anytime soon, looks like Dog could potentially just cement this. The spores from the Death Rattle and the Ravasaur Egg, a 2/2 that creates 2/2s when it dies. Better Creeper, as you mentioned earlier today. So this might just be too much to deal with. There's 1 Kill Command, so there's 10 damage this turn, 12 with the Firebat as well.
Okay, if anyone knows how to pilot aggro decks in this position, it's Green Sheep. Green Sheep is the man that brought you Face Hunter. Before Face Hunter was a thing, Green Sheep dug into the depths of his mind and dug out this crazy idea of just playing charge minions every turn and hitting you in the face with the class that had 2 damage alongside Chucky and Blackout, who were then soon destined to be teammates on the UK-based team Dignitas.
Also as well, on the other side of this team, Firebat was one of the Face Hunter players
Very true.
as well.
Yes.
So we have 2 Face Hunter masters going on these 2 teams respectively. But like I said, this is the draw that you can win the game with. And I believe you have to go all face it.
I do too. The Defender of Argus is going to be very, very punishing here, of course. But if you go all face, you put him down to 4. That means the hero power only brings him back up to 5. So in the world where there is no taunts and no lethals, hero power plus the second bow charge ends the game next turn.
And also as well, when you put Dog in this position, he might want to start trading. Obviously, there's only Firebat on the board, but you know, he's quite a way away from lethal himself, so he will play defensively, and that might buy you the. Sometimes you can't. That might buy you the odd turn.
Right.
So it could be tricky. Obviously, there is only Firebat.
It's not going to buy you the extra turn because 2 more Murlocs are getting pulled out of Dog's deck this turn. So there will just always be lethal on board next turn. And there's the reaction from Green Sheep, a reaction that you and I share, Raven. And as I said, this right here is going to seal the fact that there is only 1 more turn left for Green Sheep to live, and with Dog at 9, even kill command number 2 is not enough to get the job done here. Unleash the Hounds does not get it done either.
There is no one card I'm aware of, at least, that is going to do it, and High Mane is definitely not it. The sheer amount of health, the second Defender of Argus, is going to close out this game for Dog, and it's just going to be too much now. So this is just... This is just too much here. There it is. It's going to be game, and Dog is going to take the victory for Americas.
Yeah, fantastic performance from the USA. You can hear the dismay starting to creep into our voice. But hey, at the end of the day, credit where credit's due. The team with the better players won.
Well... I guess that's it for the UK for this week. But congratulations to USA. Very strong performance, a 3-0 victory over us. Well, over them now. It becomes them.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like the British-Scottish things. Like when when Andy Murray wins a major, he's British. When he gets knocked out, he's Scottish. That's how this works. All 4 of these players are now officially Scottish.
Nice. And we see, Hotmail Jackie Chan didn't get to play, as happens with a 3-0 victory in this format. So again, congratulations. I believe we're going to be checking out the group soon because, again, the group with the UK and USA in is one of the most stacked groups.
It really is,
So there are no easier matches in a lot of these groups, in most of these groups, actually. So early losses, just any losses at all, are going to be huge for each of these teams. But there was a lot went wrong there for the UK, I'll say.
One or two things,
I'm definitely not trying to be biased, but for example, Firebat's Pirate Warrior.
It was insane, yeah.
Nuts him, basically.
And you could see the look on Firebat's face as well. Like, he knew what was happening. It's like, yeah, this is just Pirate Warrior things.
Yeah, we can see Group B, Netherlands, also with a 3-0 victory today. Netherlands and United States at the top of that group. Romania and the UK at the bottom, both with 0-3. So Romania's probably happy that someone lost 0-3.
Yes, very true.
That is going to help out with tiebreakers. Peru and Thailand have got a match coming up as well. And yeah, that's going to be us for today. We've had another amazing 5 matches. We got an additional caster once he could be bothered turning up, as opposed to yesterday when me and Lothar had to run the show.
And you did it admirably, I will say.
That's admirable.
No punchline. Genuine compliment for once.
I'm not used to this,
No,
guy.
I know. You just had no idea how to react to that at all.
But no, thanks a lot for turning up today, Sol. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure. And we can check out the results from today. It is Finland losing to Norway 2-3. So a very close to home battle going on there. Netherlands beat out Romania in a clean sweep 3-0.
Yeah, and then this game, Germany versus Ukraine, this was one of the most star-studded matchups we've seen throughout the whole tournament so far. Ukraine just clutching it out on the back of Kalento's buff elemental paladin. Canada with the clean sweep over France, and then that was the last game that we saw in the entire day. Only 4 games today for some reason, but I guess we'll just wrap it up here.
Yeah, I believe there's a bug on the graphics. Ignore the bottom section, just don't look. But no, to be honest, United States beat us out, the UK, 3-0. So 3 3-0s today, very different from what we saw yesterday. Great performances by all the teams, and again, just a million different decks being played.
Yeah, seriously.
Druid was a standout deck as well that was awesome to see from Purple in the Canada versus France match. We saw Nyria with the Shaman deck as well, which I still don't quite understand what's going on there.
Pretty sure there is a Spirit Echo in there. He just
so.
didn't draw it, yeah. And then we saw Aggro Druid, Control Druid, we saw Aggro Warriors, Control Warriors, we saw Elemental Shaman, Elemental Paladin, we saw that crazy Blood Doom Warlock, as you put it. We saw Zoo being played, and Handlock as well being played yesterday, I believe, at some point. So such a variety of decks hitting the format in week 1. Hopefully, from here, going forward, week 2, week 3, and onwards, we continue to see this incredibly exciting metagame getting innovated and so many new cool decks coming out in future weeks as well.
Yeah, and that is going to be all 5 matches for us today. So we're going to have to bid you farewell from the European office, at least. So we're going to be done for this week. Me and Sol will be returning next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, again, to continue Hearthstone Global Games. But if you've not had enough, I strongly suggest this, check out tomorrow, where our friends over the pond, Rob, Wing, and Cora, are going to be bringing you some more Hearthstone Global Games.
We're not friends anymore. That series right there was the end of a beautiful friendship with many, many American people.
Yeah. All right, so thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you had fun, because we definitely did. So from me, Sol, and Lothar, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.